All right, guys. So yesterday we did one-step equations with multiplication and division. All right. I'm sorry, division and multiplication equations. You had to finish both of these pages for homework. We're moving into what we call a two-step equation, and we're actually going to spend 2 days on this. And we're going to look at having a quiz in a couple days over equations, one-step and two-step equations. So, so what we have to do when we have a two-step equation, and there's some notes up here, is we have to go in the inverse order of operations, and we have to do, all right, the inverse operation. All right, so kind of redundant, but anyway, let's take a look at this and see what we have here. Okay, and let's just kind of take a look and see what's going on up here. We first off start with 3x plus 1 equals or is 7. So we have a coefficient and a variable, a constant and a constant. We have an operational sign and an equal. The first thing that we would do in this normal case is we would multiply, but to solve a two-step equation, we have to go in reverse order of operations. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So that makes it kind of neat. So what we're going to do first is we're going to go ahead and subtract 1 from both sides. Now, they don't have a balance beam, but I'm going to draw one there for you. Subtract 1 from both sides. So what's left is 3x, and 7 minus 1 is 6. It's 6. Now, why did I subtract 1? Because the opposite of adding 1 is subtracting. Again, I want to get that to 0. And this side is whatever it is, and that turns out to be 6. Now, we're going to continue our bar, and we're going to divide both sides by 3. This is what we did yesterday. You see, we're going to divide both sides by 3, and this cancels. What's left is x. 6 divided by 3 is 2, and we would circle that answer. Okay? Now, on the right side, you're going to see where we could check our work. Okay, so what I would do is substitute 2 where x is. And let's see if we end up with 7. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. 7 equals 7, so it does check. So it does. Now, I will tell you this. On some of these, you're going to be able to do it mentally. I'm still going to ask you to show your work, but even on some of these, they throw some integers in that we just dealt with last week, which is a good thing, all right, which is good. We need to be challenged. We need to keep pushing here. But we are going to be doing, I'm going to do this whole front page with you, then I'm going to cut you loose to do the back. Calculators permitted, sure. But what we have to do, okay, is make sure, all right, that we're showing our work. All right. Now, I'm going to go, I just saw a couple of these. I'm going to go over here and erase a couple of these because I see some distributive property in there, and I don't want to get into that just yet. I just want to stick to a fundamental, basic two-step equation. Okay. All right, let's get started here. R divided by 4 minus 12 equals negative 5. And right out of the gate, we're on a negative. Okay. And you can use your calculator. Yep. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 12 and get 0. And I'm going to add 12 over here. Whatever's left over here, I bring down equals. Negative 5 plus 12 is, what is that? Is that 7? Yes, 7, right? Now, what we're going to do is do the inverse operation of this. That's one step. The second step is to multiply by 4. This cancels. R comes down. Multiply by 4, and we end up with 28. And there's your answer. So let's see if this makes sense. 28 divided by 4 is 7. 7 minus 12, yep, negative 5. I always like to do a quick check there. Okay. Let's slide into number 2. We're going to balance beam. And when I balance beam, I see that I'm going to add 14 to both sides. What's left is 7. Okay. Over here, what's left is 42 and 14. Well, 4 and 2 is 6. 4 and 1 is 5, is 56. So all I did here was add 14 to both sides. Now, I'm going to divide both sides by 7. K comes down. 56 divided by 7 is 8. Circle it. Let's get a mental check. 7 times 8 is 56 minus 14. Yep, makes sense to me. That's what I say by just checking it. Number 3 or the third box. Balance beam. We have to get rid of the 24 first. And what I mean by getting rid of it is we're going to subtract 24 from both sides. Now, we have to be careful. We're dealing with negatives. You certainly can, and I just brought that down. You certainly can use your calculator, but I could do this mentally pretty quick, okay? So if I was to write this horizontally, it would be written like that. Oops, 24. I would add a negative. So I'm adding numbers with like signs, combine the numbers. I end up with 36 and give it the sign of those numbers. Again, you could use your calculator if you wanted. Now we're going to continue our balance beam and tee it up. Then we're going to divide both sides by 4. B will come down. 36 divided by 4 is 9. Unlike terms is a negative, and there we have it. And let's check. Let's see if it just makes sense. 4 times negative 9 is negative 36. If I substitute that in, plus 24, yep, sounds good to me. Okay, let's keep going here. Balance beam. I'm going to add 5 to both sides. This is 0. 3G comes down. You see, we have to get rid of that 5 first. 17 plus 5 is 22, right? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to divide both sides by 3. Cancels. G comes down. And what I'm going to do, all right, and I could do this 2 ways. I could leave it like that, 22 thirds, or I could take that and if I grab my calculator, just to show you, just to kind of get a review of this a little bit here, I could change it to a mixed number, okay? So I could take, if I can get it to turn on here. Uh-oh, haven't used my calculator in a while. 1 second here, bear with me. If you're like me, you haven't used it in a while. There, it popped on. Okay, so I would take 22 and divide it by 3, and I end up with 7 3/10 repeating. Well, I know that 7 3/10 is 1/3, 7 1/3. But if I was unsure, just hit second N over D, or you could use this button, all right, and you'll end up with it. Uh-oh, I lost it. But anyway, I know that's 7 1/3, right? And just to prove that, hopefully I can turn this on. I don't think there's any power in this thing because it hasn't had any, the photocell hasn't had anything. But anyway, 22 thirds, right? And if I wanted to change that to a decimal, I could do that, or I could just do that. And that keeps turning it off for some reason. So anyway, I'm having calculator problems. Apologize. Let's move on. Let's balance beam this up. Let's subtract 13. Let's subtract 13 for A equals. That comes straight down. 9 minus 13 is negative 4. Okay. Let's see if we can get this calculator back working here. And actually what I'm going to do is just keep it under this light and try and get some voltage in it. Okay. And what I'm going to do next is divide, because the inverse of multiplication is division. And we're going to divide both sides by 4, and we end up with negative 1. Okay. Excellent. All right, let's move on. Balance beam. I'm going to add 2 here, add 2 here. I end up with 15 equals 5m. All we're doing is keeping the equation balanced. And what we're going to do next is we're going to divide both sides by 5. M equals 15 divided by 5 is 3. Let's give it that mental check, right? 5 times 3 is 15 minus 2. Yep, works for me. Now, these next two we have some negative numbers, so we might have to go ahead and rely on our calculator a little bit. That's okay. All right, let's go. Balance beam. I'm going to add 5. But wait a second, Mr. Milliken. You said, well, when I do the opposite. Well, here's the rule. You have to get this to 0. You have to get rid of the 5 on this side. And what you do to this side, you have to do the same thing to the other side. You have to keep it balanced. So you're not looking necessarily at this sign. You're looking at the sign of the number, all right? The sign of the integer. Negative 19 plus 5 is negative 14 equals 7K. Okay. I continued my beam down. I divide both sides by 7. This side will cancel. And again, I'm just keeping it balanced here. 14 divided by 7 is 2 unlike terms. One's negative, one's positive. Is a negative, and we circle it up. Okay. Excellent, excellent, excellent. We're rolling on. We're rolling on. They got a good video going here, about 12 minutes almost already. This is excellent. Done this in a while. I enjoy this. So I do. Let's balance beam it. Now, this is subtraction, but this is a positive 11. So I have to subtract 11 from both sides. Now, remember, this is a negative 2t. That's getting a little tricky. Okay, and I wouldn't give you anything like that, but it's good. It's good enrichment here, right? It's all right to miss things, all right? It's okay. And what I'm going to ask you to do is let's just rely on our calculator. Negative 15 minus 11. And we end up with negative 26. There it is, right there. You see it? All right. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to divide both sides by negative 2. This will cancel. T will come down. 26 divided by 2 is 13. Like terms, right? They're like is a positive. Bang, we're done. We're done. So that's why it's really important to end up with that negative. We have to understand that we have to add a negative. Okay, I'm going to do one more with you. Balance beam, minus 11. Again, getting rid of that. 4x is down here, equals. Subtract 11, and I end up with 2. 13 minus 11 is 2. No problems. Let's continue. Divide both sides by 4. Cancels. X comes down. Well, 2 over 4 is going to be 0.5. 2 divided by 4 is 0.5. Or, 2 divided by 4 is 0.5. Or you could switch that to a fraction, and you could end up with, right, 1/2. And that's how I'm going to write it as 1/2. Good math here today. All right, so if you're in class, all right, just reviewing this, what we're going to do is kind of get rid of a couple here. I don't really want to deal with these distributive property ones, okay? But I do want you to take a look at the rest of these. And actually, I want to do one more with you, okay? And we're actually going to do this one right here, okay? All right, can I blow that up any? No. All right, let's go. X plus 3 divided by 2 equals 5. All right, so this is a little bit different, all right? Generally, we would get rid of this 3, but this tells us that simplify the top first, then divide. And remember, what we want to do is work in backwards in the order of operations, okay? So instead of getting rid of the 3 first, I'm going to get rid of this 2. And I'm going to multiply this by 2, and it's going to cancel, and this by 2. What's left over here is x plus 3 equals 10. Equals 10. Okay? Now, what we have to do next is get rid of the 3 to isolate that. So I'm going to continue my balance beam. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. X equals 7. And there it is. Let's check. 7 plus 3 is 10. 10 divided by 2 is 5, and it works. So we worked backwards. We got rid of the 2 first, and then we got rid of the 3. Okay? Make sure you X those off, and just go ahead and do these ones. Certainly use your calculator as needed. We're going to be working in class anyway, so wish you